Hey, what's going on, guys? The Horror Man back with the next Top 20 for 2020. This time I'll be counting down my top 20 favorite 90s horror films. The Top 20 for 2020 series was created by myself and my buddy Jason from Horrific Nightmares. Twice a month, we randomly select a theme and then rank our top 20 favorite horror films from that theme. In our videos, we can only feature 20 films, no honorable mentions, and we can only include one film per franchise. Also, Jason and I only feature films we actually own on physical media. This time around, the randomly selected theme was 90s horror films. I've personally opted to eliminate a bunch of 90s slashers from this list, simply because they will definitely be included on my 90s slasher list when we get to that theme. That allowed me some room for some other movies, since this list is specifically 90s horror films in general. With that being said, there will of course still be some slasher films featured on this one. As with all of my other rankings, I will be starting at my least favorite, number 20, and counting my way down to my favorite, number 1. And please keep in mind, this is just my personal opinion. I will also not spend too much time talking about each of the films, since I don't want the video to go on too long. And so, here we go. My top 20 for 2020 of my top 20 favorite 90s horror films. Coming in at number 20 is, very fittingly, Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth. The reason I say this is so fitting is twofold. First, Hellraiser 3 is very 90s. It definitely has that 90s vibe to it. But secondly, oddly enough, I realize there are a lot of part 3s on this list, and Hellraiser 3 just happens to be the first of them. At number 19 is a movie that a lot of people refer to as Hellraiser in Space. And no, it's not Hellraiser Bloodline, it's Event Horizon. Event Horizon is a truly terrifying movie. And that's coming from someone who's not huge on sci-fi horror. But as far as sci-fi horror goes, this one is top-notch for me. And it's number 19 in my top 20 favorite 90s horror films. Ironically, I say I'm not a huge sci-fi horror fan, yet here's another one at number 18. It's Cube. This movie is very unique. I remember watching this one for the first time on TV and being completely blown away by it. I also own the sequel and the prequel, but they're just not as good. This first movie was truly innovative, and it's number 18 in my top 20. Coming in at number 17 is the obligatory Halloween inclusion on this list. It's Halloween H2O. I know others might include Halloween The Curse of Michael Myers instead of this one, but I do slightly prefer this one to that one. So, Halloween H2O it is, at number 17. Coming in at number 16 is a movie I completely fell in love with when I reviewed it during the Slashback Challenge last year. It's Perfect Blue. I can tell you now this will be the only anime film making this list, because like sci-fi horror, I'm not a huge anime fan. However, this one is a masterpiece, and there was no way I could not include it on this list. At number 15 is another movie that just screams 90s. And no, it's not Scream, it's Strangeland. My buddy Brad, Bronco Juggalo, just reviewed this one last week during the Slashback Challenge. And this is a favorite of mine. Dee Snider has been supposedly working on a sequel for about 15 years, so I'm not sure we'll ever see one, but I really hope we do, because I absolutely love Strangeland. Strangeland features a lot of piercings and body modifications, and so does my number 14 pick, Return of the Living Dead 3. It's another part 3 on my list, and this was always my favorite of the Return of the Living Dead series. And would you look at that, another part 3. At number 13 is Leatherface, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. I know I've never done a ranking of the TCM franchise, because I still need to watch Leatherface, the prequel film. So I can't give an accurate ranking until I actually watch all of the movies. But I can tell you, as of right now, this one, TCM3, is my favorite of the franchise. Coming in at number 12 may very well be the best film on this list. I mean, it did win the Oscar for Best Picture. It's The Silence of the Lambs. However, this list is subjective, and we are talking about my personal favorite films. So while I do love The Silence of the Lambs, it's only number 12 in my top 20 favorite 90s horror films. At number 11 is the movie I ranked at number 1 on my top 20 favorite home invasion films list. It's The People Under the Stairs. This just goes to show you a movie can rank number 1 on one list and not even crack the top 10 on another. Child's Play 2, however, does make the top 10. I probably could have included Child's Play 3 as a way to feature another part 3 on this list, but I can't deny that I do prefer Child's Play 2. It's not necessarily my favorite Child's Play sequel, that would be Curse of Chucky, but Child's Play 2 is very close, and it's number 10 in my top 20 favorite 90s horror films. Personal preference played a big role in my number 9 pick, because despite the fact that this was finally released on Blu-ray, this movie is still very obscure. It's Scary Movie. This is, of course, Scary Movie from 1991, not the more popular horror comedy of the same title. You guys know how much I love this one. It deserves more attention, so here it is at number 9. I am a huge Twin Peaks fan, especially the original series, and I love pretty much everything David Lynch has done, including Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, which is number 8 in my top 20. This is pure horror. The movie does things that the TV show wasn't able to do because of restrictions. It's the perfect prequel and the perfect standalone. I am also a huge Phantasm fan. You guys know that. So, here at number 7 is Phantasm 3, Lord of the Dead. Only Phantasm 3 and Phantasm Oblivion were released in the 90s, so I had to pick one of the two. And for me, I do prefer Phantasm 3. At number 6 is another obligatory pick. It's Scream. I mean, what's a 90s horror list without this movie? It had to be here, and it just happens to be number 6. Which brings us to the top 5. Starting with my all-time favorite vampire film, Subspecies. I obviously talk about this one in my top 20 for 2020 vampire films ranking video, because this was ranked at number 1 on that list. In at number 4 is Tremors. This was always a favorite of mine. It's so much fun. I'm talking about the first movie. It has a great cast, it's an awesome monster flick, and it's definitely worthy of number 4 in my top 20. Coming in at number 3 is the last of the part 3s on this list. It's Army of Darkness. Army of Darkness is, of course, The Evil Dead Part 3. And I still wish they went with the original concept title, The Medieval Dead. It would have been so much more fitting. Regardless, this movie is a blast. I don't know too many people who don't like this movie. Army of Darkness is my number 3 favorite 90s horror film. And in second place, the runner-up is Candyman. Candyman is a horror legend. You hear a lot about Jason, Freddy, Michael, Chucky, Leatherface, but where does Candyman fall on that list? Well, I can tell you where the movie falls on my list, number 2. Which brings us to the top spot. My number 1 favorite 90s horror film is Nightbreed. I'm just gonna say it. I prefer the theatrical cut of the film. I waited so long to see the director's cut that by the time I saw it, I realized I was missing things from the original version of the movie that I had been watching all of my life. As I'm sure you all know, Nightbreed is based on the novella Cabal, written by Clive Barker, and it's actually one of my favorite books of all time. While it was indeed cooler to see a truer adaptation of the novella, it took away some of the nostalgia. It's also worth mentioning that Nightbreed is one of the few films Clive Barker directed himself, and he definitely has a style, which I love. Nightbreed is a monster film, a slasher film, and a work of art. And regardless of the cut of the movie, it's my number 1 favorite 90s horror film. So there you have it, guys, my top 20 for 2020 of my top 20 favorite 90s horror films. What do you think of my list? Comment below and let me know. and be sure to check out Jason's ranking. Also, as always, you are all invited to join in as well. We'd love to see your lists. Thanks for watching, guys. Be kind, subscribe.